David Ungar, and we are here for a special. Uh-oh.
No, no,
Oh, you're
I was
just
just
waving.
wave.
You're just
No,
waving. I was like, wait.
I was waving to
I
the
thought you were.
fans.
I thought you were giving me a whole signal.
No,
Hold up, something had gone wrong. Anyway, welcoming you into an early edition of the Four Corners podcast. That's right. We are dropping this episode today, Sunday, as we record it, because, well, there's a pretty big game. There's two big games in college sports happening over the next 24 hours. Tonight, the women's NCAA basketball tournament, which was a mirror of the 2025 men's tournament, where all four number one seeds made it to the Final Four, comes to a head today as Don Staley's South Carolina, I almost said Southern Cal, the other USC, the East Coast USC, Don Staley looking for yet another NCAA championship, and she is going to be facing the UCLA Bruins. Both teams relatively comfortably made their way into the national title game today. UCLA was a little more dicey.
yeah,
USC and UConn got heated, but I think we've got a hell of a matchup in store tonight. That'll be a lot of fun. And then, of course, on Monday, we have the men's NCAA tournament final between the University of Michigan and the University of Connecticut. We will talk about we are going to react and talk about the men's final in the second segment of the day because a couple of other things have happened in sports this week, specifically with collegiate sports, that I think are worth talking about. One, in regards to that men's NCAA tournament, there is a rumor about that I want to talk about. And then the President of the United States, Donald Trump, issued an executive order today. And while many of you know my political leanings and my feelings about the president, I actually don't know that I hate this executive order entirely because of what it could do. But before we get into all that, just need to remind you all that the Four Corners podcast is brought to you as a part of the Chairshot Radio Network here on thechairshot.com, where we remind you to always use your head. And just a reminder to head over to prowrestlingtees.com/thechairshot for some sweet, sweet chair shot swag. And here we are on April 5th. We are 8 days away from our big website relaunch, where we are updating some content, integrating new technologies into the work that we do, and really doing a big step forward for our network. And it's a very, very exciting time to be there. I know I'm excited. Dave, you've got to be excited too. How's your weekend been? Sorry, blessed Passover. Um,
yeah,
because that happened a couple of days ago. It is
it
Easter
did.
Sunday,
It
and
is.
I want to recognize my Jewish fellow in the room, as I'm not a big Easter person. Like the little O'Dowd's Easter basket was like a box of Peeps. It had like six like Reese's peanut butter. He's 14 now. He doesn't care.
Yeah, he's
He doesn't
beyond the
care.
whole Easter bunny sort of thing. I no, I mean, I like my wife. She went to church this morning, so she's there right now. And my daughter
Take me
has
to
this.
church. Oh, sorry.
My daughter has this habit of, and it's a running joke with us for a few years now. She'll wish me a happy Easter, and I always respond, "You do realize we're Jewish, right?" But that's just our own thing. So, but no, to all the Christian fans out there watching and listening in, happy Easter. I hope it is a great day for you. Remember that it wasn't the Jews who specifically did this; it was the Romans. So there you go.
Right. Um. No, you're right. Like, there's no
I,
dispute. Like, I'm not arguing with you at all. I had a lengthy conversation at work the other day, which this is always dangerous. But Mel Gibson is apparently doing a sequel to The Passion of the Christ. And I'm like, but how? Like,
yeah,
how is there a sequel to The Passion of the Christ? What are you fucking making up to do a sequel? And that then led to a discussion of how The Passion of the Christ was used to vilify the Jews. Like
yes.
that was in the 1200s when The Passion of the Christ was written, because it's not in the Bible, kids. It is a completely fictional piece of Christian propaganda to go after Jews, and it worked. It worked very effectively. So
Well,
between that and
Mel has a tendency to lean
there's a track
anti-Semitic at
record there.
times.
Right.
Yes, yes,
So
absolutely.
yeah. Anyway, all of that notwithstanding, Passover was what, like Thursday?
Uh, I think so. I have to look it up.
What? Okay, you're the Jewish guy.
I don't. Well, I don't really celebrate that stuff.
That's fair. The only
I don't
reason
remember.
and this is also the time of year when I watch Charlton at his most Heston on in the Ten Commandments and Passover, the Passover being a significant piece of that, and still an amazing piece of cinema and filmmaking, special effects, way ahead of its time. Anyway, all of that is neither here nor there. Let's get into the sports news that came out today in the collegiate ranks, and we're going to start by
April
talking
1st,
about
April
the
1st through April
NCAA
ninth.
tournament as Yahoo report. So we're experiencing Passover.
Right.
Um, anyway, Yahoo Sports reported, Ross Dellinger reported a couple of days ago, on Thursday, actually, April 2nd, that after the men's NCAA tournament concludes, it is highly likely that the NCAA is going to be announcing the long dreaded tournament expansion from the 68 that we have currently to 74, and to expand the first four playoff system to like 12 games, so like 24 teams playing for the right to enter into a seed in the tournament. And it's funny because we're going to talk about two different pieces of news that came out. This is a travesty,
So here's
like in
I
my
got it
opinion.
up. I got it up for you,
Yeah,
Pat.
I appreciate you got it up there. This to me is just terrible because the field of 68 thing, in my opinion, has been a grossly unfair thing to the teams that have to play in it. And it is quite sad to me that the desire for money, and I get it, we're a capitalist country. The NCAA makes more money off of the NCAA tournament and the Final Four than they do anything else that they put out there. Because remember, kids, they're not running the college football playoff. The networks are. ESPN runs the college football playoff because and because of that, we get a pointless show for weeks on end going over the college football playoff team rankings that we don't need on a Tuesday for 9 weeks, and then they just changed their mind and put Miami in over Notre Dame, even though they ranked Notre Dame ahead of Miami the whole time until the very end, and they were like, just kidding. But this notion of telling teams they quote made the tournament and then having to play to then again make the tournament is stupid and unfair. And I'll give a perfect example of how punishing it is to a team, and just in the eyes of punditry. Miami of Ohio. Miami of Ohio was undefeated all season going into their conference tournament. And in their first round game that they played in the MAC conference tournament, they lost their first game of the season to the University of Massachusetts. Their reward for being undefeated as a mid major team, strength of schedule notwithstanding, was to be put into an 11 seed play in game in the first four and prove that they could beat. I can't even remember who it was that they had to beat because at this point in the tournament, it's irrelevant. But they had to win a game to then move on and lose in the first round to a very got a very good like Texas Tech or somebody I can't or Texas A&M. I don't remember who they lost to there either. And there were two problems for me with this. Is one, it continues to reward mediocrity and less than mediocrity out of the power conferences, because this expansion, as much as you're going to hear all these talking heads say it's going to give more opportunity to a mid major, it's not. Never has. The only reason mid majors play in that is because they put four of the worst, lowest seeded teams in to play for the right to get stomped by a number one seed. And then they reward four underperforming teams with the opportunity to play in and get into the second round. And Tennessee was the school that, every year there's always one that kind of comes out of it. and Tennessee was that school this year. They had a comeback in the first four, ended up winning the game, uh, had a little bit of a run, got boat raced by Michigan in the Sweet 16 or the Elite Eight. Got boat raced by Michigan in the Elite Eight, and that was that for them in their season. But
So,
go ahead.
so with 76 teams, I'm just trying to do the math in my head. Is that one where do they eliminate play-in games? Is this one that's easy? That's actually like
No, they're going
divisible
to
by?
shift. They're going to shift a bunch of playing games. Let's see if I can find it in the article
Let me. I'll look and
that I
see if I'll
posed.
scroll down as well.
But
Expansion of the
basically, they're going to
Dayton
shift some of
rounds.
these playing games to where it's an
So,
expansion of
so I
Dayton.
think it's this part here. It would
Yeah,
basically be an
there will
expansion of the
be
Dayton rounds that are played on Tuesday and Wednesday rather than two games on each of those days. There would be 12 total games played among 24 teams.
right,
Whew.
and it's just to me, it's again, it's going to reward mediocrity. It's going to reward a barely over 500 Auburn team, which had a tough schedule and is now winning. I think they either won the NIT or they made it to the final. I can't remember how that panned out. They got their postseason tournament. They made their statement of we could have beat anybody, though they beat a bunch of again underperforming teams that do not deserve to be in a tournament. They, it's just to me, it's bonkers. It's ludicrous. I hate it because this is not what makes the tournament magical. The first four is not what makes the tournament special. The first
Right.
2 days of the 64 team bracket is what has always made the tournament magical. And expanding this because power conferences are bitchy about it, or you're going to punish mid majors even further by forcing them to play their way into one of these games is unfair.
And
It's
then
unfair and it's a tragedy.
like the Yahoo Sports article is playing, not only are you punishing them, but you're doubly punishing them because, like I say, for any teams that win their playing game in the official first round of the tournament, a team could play 3 games in 5 days. That's a big
Right.
ask for these kids at this stage of the year.
Yeah, it makes it the only sense it makes is because of how well the first four has done in terms of ratings and money and ad revenue for the NCAA. Other than that, it's a joke. It's a joke and it's unfair and it's stupid and it just further punishes, like I said, it further punishes small schools that NCAA basketball is generally one of their strongest sources of income as a school. Making the tournament is a big deal to these schools, and you shit all over it. And then you have people like Tyler Hansborough, for example, who was on the field at 68, saying that those wins in that round don't count. They're not NCAA tournament wins. So even though the NCAA is trying to tell them, punditry is sitting there crapping all over it, and it's hard to argue with them because you can argue that they haven't made the tournament until they won that game. So that was news story number one, Dave. I'm sorry, I pontificated way too hard on that one.
That's fine.
Um,
It's a big deal. I mean, a big money maker, obviously it's got its own sort of stuff going on. But yeah, I mean, like you're saying, that was inevitable. So you knew it was
right,
coming.
and right. The other thing that happened this week, and he's been threatening to do so for a while, and he finally did it, is that Donald Trump this week signed an executive order aimed at helping or aimed at regulate further regulating college athletics and college sports, and specifically focusing on the eligibility piece of these reports. There was a proposal by the NCAA that was reviewed and voted on, and no action was taken, where the where an eligibility for a player would be 5 years of eligibility to play 5 years of eligibility to play 5 years worth of college football. Basically eliminating the sit out red shirt rule, but giving you 5 years. So if you do sit someone out, like that's a year of development that just really doesn't interrupt things. And trying to get it in such a way that it helps match the continuity necessary of um, the resultant frequent transfers, people trying to come back, basically all of these exceptions that have been a big problem and a challenge that the NCAA keeps getting sued over and then losing when somebody comes back and wants more eligibility. I actually don't hate this. I think it's also something that many within it, particularly in football, many within the coaching circles want and have advocated for. And so, as much as it pains me, Dave, to agree with the president of the United States on something, he's really just parroting something that has already been proposed and hasn't been passed by the NCAA. What I
Well,
don't like is that he's threatening. The only way he knows how to punish anybody is to take away their money, and I think
mm,
taking away a university's funding because of how the athletic program, who has had impunity and the ability to act without any guardrails, regardless of what the university wants them to do or tries to have them do. I understand why he's doing it because it scares people, but I also don't know that that's the right. Like, I don't think that is necessarily the way I would hold them accountable to it.
yeah, I gotta agree with you, man. And as much as you and I have been staunchly anti-Trump on most things, he's got a lot of stuff right in this executive
Right.
order. I gotta admit, we've talked on this show several times about the the finagling that some of these universities are doing with transfer rules and extending. Is it 5 years? Is it 6 years? You look at the situation with Old Miss's quarterback and all that sort of stuff. Um, so he's trying to really kind of like define that sort of thing. But of course, there's exceptions to this, and this has got its own
Yeah.
exceptions built in, and that sort of thing. But I think like I like the part where puts in additional time if the athlete graduates. So that kind of really, uh, that sort of thing is going to motivate or reward people for graduating, which is a problem. People leaving school early just to go to the pros and make the money, and I get all that, and sometimes it's necessary. But I do like that part. He's predicting funding for women's sports, calling for crackdowns on booster collectives, which I think is a joke with him, especially. But
Well,
we'll see where that
and
goes.
and the thing is with the adoption of revenue sharing that has started to be reduced. Like, there are still collectives, but their role is a little bit different than what it was previously. So
Yeah.
it is one of those. Um,
But I tend to agree with you. It's one of his better executive orders, probably, right?
right. The other thing that's rampant right now, and I don't know how you curtail, is tampering. Uh,
Yeah.
both both at the player and the coaching level. And we saw a great example of tampering in college sports with a coach this week going into the Final Four because Tommy Lloyd, head coach of the University of Arizona, at his Final Four press conference, had to announce, I'm not taking the North Carolina job. I am going to continue to stay at the University of Arizona. And it was pretty obvious that he had been approached by North Carolina while he's trying to coach a Final Four. And that shit's got to end both at the coach level and the player level, because that's the other thing that's going on is so many of these players are playing for teams, and come Tuesday morning the transfer portal is going to open and you're going to see names officially enter. As early as Monday, teams, I'm fully expecting the first announcement of an Illinois player leaving by Tuesday. Like, it's just how it goes. But these players are inundated while they are playing during a season by coaches or assistants, wooing them away from their program. And this is another instance where the mid majors get hurt more than the top programs, though it does also happen with the top programs. And the transfer portal and the move on to a new opportunity thing, I don't begrudge a student for wanting to do it. I think it is insane how rapidly and rampant it has become with some of these players. Like, players who have played for 5 teams in 4 years. Like, what are you doing? What are you doing? Because it's
I mean,
certainly, at that point, you're chasing a bag, and it's certainly not about a coach or a fit or anything like that. Like, it just
right,
isn't.
And that's where the analogies to free agency kind of fall apart. It's like, yeah, free agents aren't moving that quick, guys. They're not switching
Right.
every single year, but
Well, and players and again, I keep going back to mid majors. Players leverage mid major schools to get better deals, and I will say this right now. I'm going to talk about again another player from the University of Illinois. Was a guard, was getting solid minutes last year, but wasn't a starter. This was in 25. Season ends to the surprise to no one. He goes into the transfer portal. Goes to the transfer portal, signs with UNLV, averages 21 points a game at UNLV in a lesser conference, immediately jumps into the transfer portal, and word on the street is that Maryland, or he's announced his intention because he can't do it officially until Tuesday. He announces his intention to enter the transfer portal, and everybody's talking about how Maryland's going to pick this kid up.
please, we need all
Like,
the help we can get.
but but that's the thing is like clearly Maryland has been talking to this kid,
Yeah,
right?
no,
And
absolutely.
he's gonna
Yeah.
go. And what are like that's messed up. So and unless you're the bluest of the blue buds, like good luck. So it is what it is. Hopefully this spurs actual progress by the NCAA to protect their institutions from losing funding because they have no teeth when it comes to being challenged in court. No. All right.
Yep.
We're going to take a quick commercial break and then we're going to talk some men's Final Four, the games that were yesterday and the game to come on Monday. Stick around for that. You're listening to the Four Corners Podcast here on the Chairshot Radio Network, part of the Chairshot.com. Welcome back, everyone, to the Four Corners Podcast here on the Chairshot Radio Network, a part of the Chairshot.com, where we remind you to always use your head. ProWrestlingTees.com/the Chairshot for all of your Chairshot swag needs. And Dave, I thought I'd be more sad today. I really did. So we're going to talk about the Final Four. Ray Cash and Patrick O'Dowd of the Chairshot.com had very bad Saturdays in the sense that his beloved Arizona Wildcats and my beloved Fighting Illini did not advance to the national title game. Illinois falls to UConn by 9. I think it was something like 71-62. Michigan
Yeah.
boat raced Arizona. It was never a contest, which sorry Danny Hurley, was never a contest. So Michigan was able to kind of coast. And what's crazy, I'm going to talk about the Michigan Arizona game first. Michigan's best player for a large portion of that game sat. He was in foul trouble early, then rolled an ankle late in the first half. Yaxel Lindenborg rolls an ankle, walks the 7,000 miles back to the locker room, gets treatment, comes back, but they didn't even need him. They were up 20 and just rolling. And Yaxel Lindenborg, NBA player, playing amongst boys, he just fucking handled it. And Arizona had no answer. And it felt inevitable from the tip that the most anticipated game in the NCAA tournament was going to be a washout. Dusty May and his boys did not care. And if you are UConn and you're seeing a team and that's Merez Johnson Jr., thanks for putting the Illinois transfer up on the photo choice.
It was the
No,
first image that came up, buddy. I'm sorry. Wasn't
I know.
intentional.
Because we could have used a Merez Johnson yesterday. But my point is here, we're gonna preview the final after we talk about Illinois and UConn. I was trying to break down I mean, Michigan made 12 threes. Seemed like every time they put one up, it went through. Arizona could get nothing going offensively. They blinked and they were down 16. Elliot Cadeau, who has been one of the most up and down point guards ever, was sensational. Adai Mara, the big 7-footer, was controlling the lane, blocking shots. Merez Johnson was solid. They were distributing the ball equally. Everybody was getting in on the action. And before you knew it, that game was over. and it was brutal.
Yeah, I watched more of the Illinois UConn game, more for you, my friend.
I appreciate
But
that. Thank you.
I think like early on, you guys were like you had texted me early on like Michigan was inevitable, and every time I looked at the score, it just kept getting worse, and
Right.
it just like it's one of those games where Arizona just never seemed like they got in the rhythm, and you got to credit Michigan for that. But yeah, Michigan
Yeah.
was shorthanded. Their front court was in some foul trouble, and it just didn't matter. Arizona, as everything that Arizona usually does, which they've done all year, which is dictate the flow of the game and play at their pace and impose their will, got like turned around on them completely. And
Right.
I mean, yeah, I thought like you said that this is going to be the national championship game, and boy, I gotta hope that tomorrow night is a more competitive event than this one was because,
Right.
whew, yeah, Michigan
Yeah.
left no doubt on this one.
Buckle up, Buttercup. It was a ride,
Yeah,
and it was just crazy. So that was all right. Let's talk a little bit about the Illinois UConn game and the game that was, and I'll start with why I was not sad. The reason I was not sad is because, and I don't know if I told you this. I know I told some other people. After Illinois looked completely lost in the Big Ten tournament against the University of Wisconsin, where they couldn't defend. They had gone five, like four and five in their last 9 games, including the Big Ten tournament. I thought maybe the Sweet 16, and that was going to be about as far as they could get. Like that, Houston would handle their business against the University of Illinois, and to their credit, and much to my joy, they proved they proved doubters wrong, and in so many ways, whether it be people who question Brad Underwood and his ability to coach and make adjustments in game, Illinois' ability to defend. They were phenomenal defensively until the UConn game, and UConn just UConn made shots and Illinois didn't. UConn set a school record for 3-point baskets made in an NCAA tournament for them. They made 11 3-point baskets. Illinois made 5. And you can, to me, the first half really looked like the moment and the location and the game intimidated the Illini. And their shot, they were missing bunnies at the rim. And then the second half, they made a run. They were down as much as 14. They make a run. They get it within 4. They can't corral an offensive rebound that UConn grabs. That leads to a dagger three by the hometown kid. And after that three, he made that three, and I was at a friend's house, and they kindly let me open up streaming services to watch the game so I could watch it. And I looked at one of the people that was in the room with me. I was like, "That's the game. The game's over now." Like Braden Mullins hit that three to put him up 7, and I was like, "That's the dagger." And that, sure enough, Keaton Wagler comes down and hits a really nice, just beautiful step back three. I'm gonna miss him next year. I look forward to seeing how he does as a professional. He's in the lottery pick. That same day, he won the Jerry West Award for the best shooting guard in the country. Um, so awesome to see that go through. It was it was just at the end of the day, UConn hit their buckets. Illinois did not. Looked like the moment was still a little too big. UConn has had Illinois' number the last 3 years. Illinois has played them 3 times. They've lost all 3 games. They've gone down double digits. It's starting to become a white whale and an anchor. Illinois plays UConn next season in Chicago. There's going to be a lot of pressure on that team to get over the hump against Dan Hurley. The only thing that bugs me is that Dan Hurley's a dick and was acting all confused as to why he was being booed on the court. Of course, he was being booed. Illinois brought more fans than anybody else. They don't want to. They were salty. They didn't want to hear him talk.
right.
But UConn won that game. Uh, Thing to pay attention to is Solo Ball. Solo Ball, one of their top guys,
Yeah.
is not practicing today. Is in a walking boot. If he cannot go, that makes the task even taller for UConn.
Yeah, I thought watching the game, and you summed it up perfectly. Like UConn made every shot that they needed to make at the absolute moment that they needed to make, especially Mullins, who's launching up threes from well beyond the arc. I mean, it's like, what he did against Duke last week is like, should really surprise when you watch him drain threes from, between where he hit the shot for Duke and the other one. It's like that kid's a stud. And like you're saying, a freshman for Illinois, Waller, right? He was tremendous.
Wogler.
Wagler. He was tremendous as well. But it just seemed like every time Illinois made a run to get back into it, UConn had the answer, and it was always like a
Right.
3-pointer. And it's deflating when you
Well,
can't control things like that. They
there were
couldn't.
two moments in the game that kind of epitomize shooting in this game. The first was solo ball shoots a three, and it skies off the top of the rim,
Right.
taps the front, skies again, and goes through. Like at that point, you're just throwing your hands up. And then Andrei Stojakovic has a layup attempt where he's fouled and it doesn't get called. He gets his own rebound, puts it back up. The ball goes about 2/3 of the way down, rolls back out, sits on the heel of the basket for a second before slowly falling off the rim. And you look at those two moments right there, and it's like, ugh. So I I will say the sweetest thing. So I was over to friend. We were over to a friend's house. We celebrate with them and their family Easter every year, and then it actually I laughed. We had two parties in one. So we did an Easter celebration with like family, our friends' families. They take off, and then our friends came and visited as well, and all at this house. And one of them has a little boy who he came in. The kid's like 4 years old, 4 years old, 5 years old, somewhere in there. He comes in. He's watching me watch the game, and UConn makes a basket. He's like, UConn, and I was like, oh man, buddy, I don't want that, man. He's like, oh, I was like, yeah, I want the orange team on Illinois. So he flipped sides, and this little boy sat with me. He like not my kid. He was like leaning his head against me. Illinois, anytime Illinois got the ball, he'd be like, Illinois got it. Let's go. Illinois made a three at one point, and he was like, yeah. He was all on my side. He was my emotional support child, and I appreciate it. But I can't be mad at this season uh, because I didn't think we'd be here. I thought this was a
It's a
very good team that wasn't going to finish it off. So
it's a
to see
great
them make
run.
it
I
was a good
mean,
deal.
anytime you get to a Final Four, you've got to consider that's a tremendous season.
Right.
You don't for any team who gets there, even the ones who, I mean, Arizona and Michigan were expected to get there, but it still doesn't take
Yeah,
away
it's
from.
still magical.
Yeah.
So I'll still get my Final
So
Four celebration stuff, and we'll move on.
so tomorrow, or as we're
Yeah.
recording, I don't know. Well, yeah, I guess it will be tomorrow when we're going to release this.
Well, because we're
Does
releasing it
UConn?
today,
Yeah,
I think.
does
Yeah.
UConn have a shot against Michigan?
UConn has to do tomorrow what they did against Illinois, and that's make shots. They're going to need to make at least 12 3-point baskets, I think, to win this game. Because Michigan has is just loaded with talent at every position and they're deep. And Yaxel Lindenborg rolled an ankle, but he still played, and he's going to have a day to rest it. Merez Johnson Jr. is a beast on the line and in the boards. Adai Mara is an eraser. So you're going to have to hit outside shots because driving to the rim, one, is not UConn's thing. They are built to run a lot of screen actions, and Taurus Reed has had an amazing tournament. He really has. And he has been a force down low. But he is going to get beat up by the three guys I just talked about.
Yeah,
Uh, on the Michigan side, they got to protect the ball, but UConn needs to force is going to have to try and force some turnovers. Have to get up in Elliot Cadeau, make him speed up, and then they're going to they really need to make their shots because that's the only way I see them winning. They got to make threes and they got to figure out how to turn Michigan over enough uh, to do it. Because I think UConn is not particularly great on the glass. Illinois is good on the glass. Michigan is better, and so
yeah.
I think, and Michigan's going to control the board. So I
Like
I want to say it's going to be a good game. I don't have a good feeling about it for UConn though.
Well,
It's
like
a
you're
tall
saying,
order.
Mullins has got to get going. They got to hit threes. They got to get all that perimeter game going. You're not going to get anywhere going inside against this Michigan team. In fact, Michigan, that's what they want. Is they're going to want to nullify that perimeter game and force them inside, which is where Michigan's strength is. And I think if Michigan can really limit that perimeter, cut the threes down from like 12 to 8. This isn't going to be much of a contest. But I mean,
Right.
UConn, you look at UConn has that feel of destiny a little bit to them, and we've seen this team be dominant and just take
I
over games that they
I
shouldn't have
I think
before.
I think winning a game on a last second prayer because the other team fucked up has massively caused people to overvalue Dan Hurley and UConn. And you say destiny. When you watch how Michigan plays, that feels like destiny. I will
Well,
say it again. They're a wagon. They feel
yeah,
inevitable. We'll
yeah.
find out tomorrow. It'll be on TV, on CBS, all across the country. So we'll all be in it together, uh, and we'll move forward. And come next week, Dave, we can talk playoff hockey. You know,
Hey, before we go, I did
don't
want
do
to
it.
say
Don't
no,
say
no,
it.
no. I want to say one thing. Congratulations to the Buffalo Sabres. The 14-year drought is over. And then
How
you went and
about
got
that?
destroyed. Then they went and got destroyed by the Caps to let my guys back into the fucking picture. Thanks, Buffalo, for nothing.
You
So,
wanted them to just put you out of your misery. I
I
get you.
did. I
It's
did.
okay. Well, we can talk all about it. I'm gonna be honest. I because of the season that St. Louis was having, have not been as attentive to hockey this year as I have been in previous years. But we will definitely have that segment, and we'll have a few weeks under our belt. The
Yeah.
Masters are going to be wrapping up on Sunday, so it'll be a great time to have a great time. So, folks, stick around for that. Dave, before we get out of here, tell everybody where they can find you on the socials and on however you want them to find you.
Yeah, nothing has changed. So from this point, right now, just go to attitudeofregression.com and check out the Attitude of Regression's YouTube channel, where we are still very active there. And check out the Chair Shot Media. That stuff's coming. The YouTube channel is coming, or is, as of today, probably going to be launched. And so we got some really cool stuff going on over there as well.
Cool. All right. Well, folks, that's gonna. Oh shoot, there I am. That's gonna do it for this week's edition of the Four Corners Podcast. Thank you everyone for listening. Enjoy the national championship game. I hope it's a good one, but I hope Dan Hurley loses because he's a trash coach person and gets away with far too much with his antics on the court. And I'm not just saying that as an Illinois fan. I don't know any other coach in America who would have been forgiven as quickly and as swiftly as everybody did over that head touching shit. Like I just don't get it. But that's a different day. That's a different
And
podcast
one
for a different
one
day.
last thing, go Bruins. There you go.
Go Bruins. All right. Thank you, everyone. We'll see you next week on the Four Corners Podcast, part of the Chairshot Radio Network here on thechairshot.com.